All right, hello there. Welcome to the channel. My name is James, and here at 20th and 21st Movies, we are about all things cinema. All right, it's time for another entry in our monthly Director Spotlight series that we call Taste of Director Series. And in this series, what we do is we'll turn the spotlight on a specific director in each one of these videos. And we'll talk a little bit about that director's background, what got them into filmmaking, what inspired them, and what they have contributed to the world of cinema. So we'll choose 3 or 4 films from their filmography and talk a little bit about those films and just give you a taste of what that director has done in the world of filmmaking. Now, in this month's entry, I'm really excited to talk about a director whose works I have been watching now for the past 25 years, ever since his 1999 breakout, The Sixth Sense. And we're talking about none other than director M. Night Shyamalan. So on the other side of this, we're going to get into M. Night Shyamalan and talk about a few films from his filmography, as well as a film that, as of the time that I'm recording this video, is going to be debuting later this week on this Friday. It's Trap by M. Night Shyamalan. So this is Taste of M. Night Shyamalan Films. Looking forward to talking about it and hearing your comments. Let's go. Talking Taste of M. Night Shyamalan Films in this entry in our monthly Director Spotlight series. I really enjoy doing these Director Spotlight videos, and in all transparency, I'll tell you, these are not some of the most watched videos on this channel. I don't get a ton of views in this particular series, but this is just one of those things. It's just one of my passion projects. I love exploring different directors, different filmmakers from around the world. It just helps me from from the standpoint of getting exposed to different films and filmmakers from around the world, and also giving other people an opportunity to learn a little bit about different filmmakers. Maybe this is a filmmaker you've never seen any films from her or him, and it could be an opportunity to get introduced to another filmmaking voice that you haven't explored yet. So that's really why I do this Taste Directors series, for the enrichment of the community, for you to learn more about different directors, but also selfishly for my own benefit, so I can learn more about these filmmakers. So I always welcome your comments, because you guys out there, you all are watching different films. You're getting exposed to different filmmakers, and you have something to say too about these people who do the magic of making these films and put together these stories in this wonderful medium that we call the movies. So we love we love the films, we love the movies, and we love the people that put them together. So that's what this whole series is all about. So today we're talking about M. Night Shyamalan. Now, I have been following this director for the last 25 years, ever since 1999's The Sixth Sense. M. Night Shyamalan, his inspiration, and when you think about the films of M. Night Shyamalan, doesn't it make sense that his inspiration is largely from these two gentlemen up here, Steven Spielberg and Alfred Hitchcock? M. Night Shyamalan's films exemplify the combination of these two amazing filmmakers. If you put Steven Spielberg and Alfred Hitchcock in a blender, you might get some version of M. Night Shyamalan in terms of the types of films that M. Night Shyamalan makes. Now, I only have 3 of M. Night Shyamalan's films in my filmography, and none of these films are the ones I'm highlighting in this spotlight entry, but these are the 3 films I have in M. Night Shyamalan's filmography. These are the only 3 films I have. I have Split here, which I will not spoil. I almost spoiled something. This is Split. This is Glass. And this is Old. So yeah, these are the only 3 films in M. Night Shyamalan's amazing filmography that I own on physical media. These are the only 3. But today's Spotlight series entry, I'm going to focus on 4 films from M. Night's filmography. Now, as I've said in this series many times before, choosing 3 or 4 films from a filmmaker is not going to give you the full depth and breadth of what a filmmaker has done, especially if they've been doing this for multiple decades. And such is the case for M. Night Shyamalan. But the idea is to just give you a taste of what that director has done and what they've contributed to the world of cinema. So in this case, I'm going to be talking about 4 films from M. Night Shyamalan, starting with The Sixth Sense. I'm going to then talk about Unbreakable, The Village from 2004, and then Knock at the Cabin that I recently saw last year. So those are the 4 films that I'm going to cover in this Director Spotlight series entry. But before we do, I'm going to add back to the stage some information on Mr. Shyamalan. So he was inspired heavily by Steven Spielberg and Alfred Hitchcock. M. Night Shyamalan was born in Mahe, India in 1970. 1970, he was born in India, but he grew up in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia area, in this area called the Penn Valley, which is near Philadelphia on eastern Pennsylvania. And he graduated from New York University's or NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. So that's a little bit about about his background. Of course, he began to hone his storytelling and directing skills coming out of that university, and his inspiration from Steven Spielberg and Alfred Hitchcock. Based on that inspiration, he started making short films with his Super 8 camera as a child. So, what an amazing, amazing storyteller. The first film I'm going to talk about, and I do not have a physical copy of any of these films. It's kind of amazing that I don't have a copy of The Sixth Sense. This is probably his most famous film. It is from 1999. And if I were to give a summary of M. Night Shyamalan's filmmaking style, he is known for a unique blend of supernatural elements, psychological tension, and what I would call misdirection. Okay, some people would use a different word, but I don't want to use that word because to use that word would essentially be a spoiler. So I'll just call it misdirection, the okey doke, if you would. He is brilliant at that, but he's brilliant at introducing or showing you supernatural elements and psychological tension. That is a normal thread or a common thread through a lot of M. Night Shyamalan's films, and he does it with brilliance in his storytelling. And The Sixth Sense is a great example of that. This is a film that is basically about a young boy, Haley Joel Osment, who sees dead people, and a child psychologist played by Bruce Willis who is trying to help him. The one thing I would say about M. Night Shyamalan's films that you need to understand if you have never seen any of his films and you want to get into his filmography, there's a couple of things that I really need you to understand. First, don't look at any reviews of any of his films. If you do, you will probably end up getting spoiled. The best way to go into any of his films is to go in knowing as little as possible. And The Sixth Sense is the ultimate example of that. I would encourage you to go into this film knowing only what I just said, that it's about a young boy who sees dead people and a child psychologist trying to help him. That's it. You don't need to know anything more about it. Just go in with that knowledge. You have Haley Joel Osment as the boy. You have Bruce Willis here. He's the child psychologist. This is Haley Joel Osment and his mom, and this is Bruce Willis and his wife here. So just fantastic film, beautifully executed, and just an amazing story, The Sixth Sense. This is the film that essentially launched M. Night Shyamalan's career, and it is an extraordinary achievement. Film number 2, Unbreakable from 2000. After 1999's incredible breakout, The Sixth Sense, M. Night Shyamalan gave us a follow-up film also starring Bruce Willis called Unbreakable. And in this case, Bruce Willis teamed up with Samuel L. Jackson in this film, basically about a man named David Dunn, who Bruce Willis plays, who essentially may or may not be in possession of superpowers. And so you had that supernatural element of Bruce Willis's character, David Dunn, perhaps discovering that he has superpowers. And then you have Samuel L. Jackson, who befriends David Dunn and sort of plays a mentor role to him. So that's really the main thing you need to know about that film as well, that David Dunn is discovering his powers and discovering himself, and Samuel L. Jackson becomes his friend. That's all you need to know. Go in and watch Unbreakable, based upon that. So this is a film that really touches on the whole superhero genre. It's sort of like M. Night Shyamalan's entry into the superhero universe with Unbreakable. And it's a very fascinating story that talks about superheroes and comic books. And it does it in a really interesting way. And I think if you go into this film with that little bit of knowledge, you're going to get a very unique experience. That is Unbreakable. If it sounds like I'm being extremely vague and providing very few details about these films, it is intentional because, again, I don't want to spoil these movies. The thing about M. Night Shyamalan's films is that his films are particularly sensitive to spoilers. So that's why I'm sort of just dancing around and sort of dotting around the edges without telling you anything that would spoil the experience of these films. The next film I'll talk about, the third film, is The Village from 2004. This is M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. You have Sigourney Weaver in this film. And this is a very fascinating film about an isolated village that is surrounded by these scary, mysterious creatures. And this community is a community from back in the day, and they have some very strict rules to maintain the safety of their residents. So this is a situation, again, where you have that psychological tension, you have that sense of dread and suspense that is, threaded throughout the narrative of this film. It is incredible. It explores fear, control, and the whole consequences of isolation. So that is definitely something to understand about The Village. The elders set the rules, they set the standards by which this community plays by, and it's just interesting to see how these characters make it through the through line of this film. So this is M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. And then the last film I'll talk about is the film that I saw last year, which was very fascinating. This is a film that starred Drax, or Dave Bautista, and this is Knock at the Cabin. It's basically about a family who live in a cabin, who are visited by these four people here that you see here, who are basically messengers who are foretelling the end of the world. And they have a message for this family, and it is very interesting. They end up holding this family hostage. They claim that the apocalypse is imminent, and unless a sacrifice is made, the world's going to come to an end. So that is the basic premise of Knock at the Cabin. So this is another example of the psychological tension and just the moral dilemmas that can be injected in one of M. Night Shyamalan's stories. So it deals also, in this case, this film deals with themes of faith and sacrifice and the conflict between personal beliefs and greater good. So that is part of the struggle of this film, Knock at the Cabin. And I found it to be not exactly the best of M. Night Shyamalan's films, but I did find it interesting when I had a chance to go into the multiplex and watch this last year. So that is Knock at the Cabin. Of course, coming this Friday, I'm very much looking forward to Trap. This is the film that stars Josh Hartnett, and I am very much looking forward to this film here. This is the case where he's potentially playing a serial killer trapped in a concert, and all the entrances are blocked, and they're trying to track down this killer who could be Josh Hartnett, who is taking his daughter to this concert. So um, I've seen the trailer, and I'm wondering if this is an example of misdirection again. I'm wondering if he even is a serial killer, or could it be an okey doke by M. Night Shyamalan, sort of making us think one thing, but it's really something else. That remains to be seen. We shall see. So yeah, there you have it. Those are the four films that I wanted to cover in this Taste Director series for M. Night Shyamalan. I said as close to nothing while trying to say a little bit something about each. But again, the reason for that is M. Night Shyamalan's films are so sensitive to spoilers that I just don't want to spoil the experience of you seeing his films for the first time, especially a film like The Sixth Sense. The less you know about it, the better. Similar to another film that came out that same year, The Matrix. One of those films where you just don't need to know a whole lot about it. Just go in and experience it fresh for yourself. So with that, I will leave it there. M. Night Shyamalan's films are definitely worth checking out, and I highly recommend them to you. Some of my favorites from his are The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Split. Those are the three films, and The Village. Those are three of the films that are at the top of my list. We'll see where Trap comes in his filmography when I have a chance to see that on Friday. But let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about M. Night Shyamalan's films? Do you enjoy his films? If so, what are some of your favorites from this amazing director? Let us know that in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next time at the movies. Peace.